be more than human. Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Joseph Carroll. I write under the pen name J.R. Carroll. And today we are here to palaver about the Dark Tower, and specifically the first book, The Gunslinger. Now, if you've been following the channel for a while, you may know this, but if you haven't, the first thing I really ever did on BookTube was join a Dark Tower discussion over a year ago on Steve's channel from Steve Talks Books. And I don't think I made it by the time they were doing The Gunslinger, but I loved joining the quartet over there, and eventually once I made my own channel, we finished the Dark Tower over here. But I never did a dedicated video to any of the books, so I figured why not start at the beginning, which I am one of those weird people who thinks that the Gunslinger is the best of the best. Now, if Ka wills it, hit that like button and subscribe, why not? And let's see if we want to roll through all of these. But this being my, I want to say it's like my third time through the Gunslinger, but this is the first time in a while, and just thinking back on the end of the series and then coming into the Gunslinger, it gives it a whole new light. Now, I won't go into any spoilers in case you haven't read the Gunslinger, but basically this is Stephen King's series that is his like magna opus. You know, this is this book was like one of the first things he ever wrote. I think he started it back in 69 or 70, but didn't start publishing it until 78, and this book came out in short, like a serialized through a magazine, I believe. But we follow Roland the Gunslinger on his search for the man in black. And this is a fantasy western, which we don't see often a lot. Look up there. But and this was one of the first, I think this might have been the first Stephen King book I ever read. And then once I went through the Dark Tower, I started doing other books. But I remember hearing so many people say, well, his prose suck and his prose aren't very good. And I'm like, have you not read the Dark Tower, and specifically the Gunslinger? I mean, his prose are amazing in this book. And a lot of his books, people used to, say, oh, Stephen King gets paid by the pound, because his books are so big. But this book is only like 250 pages. And it is so snappy, and the action scenes in this book are so amazing as we follow Roland through this dystopian Western landscape. It's hard to describe the book because it's very trippy, and there are things mentioned throughout this book that you're like, okay, are we not on Earth? Is this like a high fantasy world? But then also things get sprinkled in throughout the book that are like, okay, are we in the real world? It is, and that's what the Dark Tower is all about. It's all about bending genres and melting your mind. And that's exactly what Stephen King accomplishes here. And I think the reason why The Gunslinger's always been my favorite, and then through the reread, it's even better. And it's weird because I don't say that very often. There are books that I can reread over and over again and enjoy, but they're never as good as the first time. But The Gunslinger is. The Gunslinger is most definitely better on a reread. In fact, if you're one of the people who has read the entire Dark Tower and then you just put it down, go back and read The Gunslinger. Or if you're going through it right now, as soon as you finish, reread The Gunslinger immediately. And it will blow your mind. I mean, it is just, because I was going through it and just thinking about the rest of the series, and I'm just like, this is a whole new experience. I mean, there's not like I said, it's we your introspective on Roland is it's not the deepest dive at the moment, although it's deep enough because in this book it's solely Roland's head that we're in. So it's enough. It's probably about as much as you'll get in the further books because I mean they're huge, but they split things up into different POVs. Where I like this book so much because I tend to like staying with one person. Don't let the people who say, "Oh, the Gunslinger's bad," you just have to fight through it and then get into the other books and you'll love it. If that's what's holding you back, don't believe them. The Gunslinger is awesome, especially if you like King. If you've read other King books and you like the action scenes he does, this might be the best action scene that you'll find in the book, or any of his books, really. But let me know. Let me know if you want me to continue with the Dark Tower. Have you read the Dark Tower? What did you think? Drop me a comment. And if you like this stuff, subscribe. Check out my Patreon if you made it this far. It's pretty cool. A lot of you can get access to short stories before anyone else from my own universe. So remember, be more than human.